Right. Okay. So, hi everyone. So this is another one in the Baxon's like Tech Talks series. Today we have Vladimir with us. Vladimir and I used to work together, but as of recently are no longer in the same company. But that doesn't mean we don't share the kind of energy and love for these kind of things. So he was like really I would say a great pal to come and do this lecture for us. Maybe a short, Vlado, you are currently in multiple roles, like the researcher at the Vinča Institute, lecturer at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, and your latest title in VGI Genomics is?
It's a senior algorithm developer and the team lead, yeah.
All right, cool. So multiple personalities in one man. The floor is yours. Go on.
Thank you very much, Dan, for inviting me to do this tech talk. So the title is Making Effective and Safe Visualizations, and I hope in next 45 minutes I would be able to bring this topic closer to you and to maybe make you more interested in it. I know it's a cliche to start with a quote, but this one it's really a good one and can get us into more deeply into the story. And everybody likes stories, so the greatest value of the picture is when it forces you to notice what we never expected to see. So what is the first thing that we noticed in the picture or in life within a person, man, woman? So usually for women, I heard they say we first notice what they decide to show us. So with the visualizations, imagine it should be similar like this. So we should notice first that at least good data visualization is something that the creator of that visualization decided to show us. And what did he decide to show us? So that usually depends on the question that he asked about the data that he wants to represent. So the main idea of this talk and visualizations itself is to maybe open a little widely our minds and help us cope with the questions and help us to ask a question what we want to learn or which answer do we want the data to give us. So let me start with the example. Everybody likes examples. So this here is very old data set. It very simple, not long, of course. It represents the genesis of bacteria on the first column, and in the following three columns, you can see its sensitivity against three different antibiotics: penicillin, streptomycin, and neomycin. And this sensitivity, it's the lower the number, sensitivity is better. So the antibiotic kills this specific bacteria in a more effective way. And the last column, it's Gram staining. And it can be positive and negative. It's a type of a cell wall, basically different color when you look at the bacteria under the microscope. So this could be some short introduction about this simple data set. So which question could we ask about it? What could be, for example, interesting for a medical doctor to ask? So he can, for example, prescribe some a proper medicine for a patient. So it would be interesting, for example, to ask which antibiotic has the widest spectrum of reactiveness against bacteria, or which antibiotic is the best for gram-positive or gram-negative bacteria. And by just looking at these numbers, it's probably difficult to answer these questions. So we would have to search maybe for some patterns, the lower numbers where they appear, maybe count them, but it would take us definitely a lot of time. And the purpose of the data scientist or data visualizer is to help us save this time. So the point is that the person who is making the visualizations to invest time in actually creating it. So our time interpreting it or reading the information or answering the answer of the question could be much lower. So, for example, this is very old visualization from the time when this data set was created. It's called by its creator, Dr. Bartlin, in 1951. So let me, without saying anything, let me give you 5 or 10 seconds just to try to understand it without any introduction. So as you can see here, on the left side, the blue ones are gram positive, and on the right, it's the red ones are gram negative. And intensity or sensitivity, it's showed also with the scale, and it's very conveniently it was inverted, so it goes from 100 to 0.001. And with these two colors, blue, red, and blacks, different antibiotics are shown. So, for example, by looking at the picture, we can easily conclude, for example, if bacteria is gram positive, then penicillin or neomycin should be most effective for it. And if bacteria is gram negative, then neomycin is most effective for it. So this is a visualization, for example, for that's suitable for these two questions. From the same data set, we can create this completely different visualization if we want to answer some different question or obtain some different insights into the data. For example, if we want to see effectiveness of different antibiotics to the different bacteria, and we can see which ones are resistant to all 3 antibiotics, only to penicillin and streptomycin, only to streptomycin and neomycin. And it's very interesting because after creating this visualization, we can even obtain some new insights about the data, and sometimes even discover some errors that we might have in the reasoning, which happened here. For example, it used to be believed for 30 years that this here is this Streptococcus bacteria, but it's really not. It shouldn't be there after they explored its features later on. So this visualization actually helped people to correct some insights they have about the data set. So let's try to look at these principles more generally and try to define which are the goals of visualization. So we can divide them in 2 major aspects. It's to communicate and to analyze or to explore data. So by communicating, it includes presenting the data, explaining, providing evidence, support, influence, and even sometimes to persuade in people making some decisions or future plans. And to analyze it, it's to explore different aspects of data, assess the situation, determine also how to proceed, or decide what should be done with the data set. So by communicating, some visualizations are, most of them at least, should be enough for themselves. So they should communicate the message without usually without being present. So in this example, you can see many different aspects, messages, statistics from American baseball, and you can maybe see some trends for certain players, how they function, how were the results for some teams. So in essence, this graphic it carries a lot of information which might be interesting for the viewer. Also, visualizations can have a purpose for exploring. So this is a great example. It illustrates the movement of the trains in Boston metro system. Let me open it on the website. It even have some interactiveness. So different colors here represent different lines of the metro inside Boston, and every line here is it's one train, and you can see the start time of the train and the end time in the last station. And when you go above the line, you can see on the left side where exactly is that train. So it's very, very convenient. And also by density of these lines, you can see the frequency of the trains. So at the beginning, usually at 7, 6, 45, it's a rush hour, so the lines are very dense, and then they are less dense. And then the second rush hour, when people return from work, is here. This irregularities here probably happen because of some delays, or maybe some fault functioning in the trucks, and later on also not so dense. And during night there is no trains, or maybe just some trains moving from one station to the other. So what I did last 6 or 7 sentences is I was actually able very easily from this visualization to tell you the story. And this is, I think, an excellent example of what should every visualization be able to do. So another example about the data exploration is this one. Let me also give you 5 to 10 seconds so you can look at it without any explanation. Yes, it as you can see, it shows the cancer deaths over time. So from 1930 to 2017, and the depth of each colored line shows the number of deaths of cancer per 100,000 people population. And by following it, you can see which cancer types were the results for the largest number of deaths. And even here you can see these changes. So they are also sorted by number of deaths. So you can easily see, for example, in every year which cancer type was the deadliest, and they are sorting. Very easy to absorb. It doesn't take you more than 5 or 10 seconds to comprehend it, and when you do that, you can really tell many different stories or findings out of this visualization. So, and also you can imagine how much time it took for a creator to do it. So usually it's the ones that are most comprehensible and most simple, they usually take huge amounts of time. So to be very well prepared and looked into all of its aspects. Yes, we have effective visualizations, and we also have visualizations that are not that effective. There is even a website contributed to these ones. It's updated on at least weekly or monthly basis. So let me just walk you through a couple of examples. Yeah, this one is just wrong. This one, for example, the area that should represent 25% is much lower than one that represents 87%. So the scale of data, it's not good. Also, this one, it's from New York Times. It shows the number of COVID cases per year. So yeah, here's some dilatation of time happens. So if the time passes by, it goes longer. And this one, it doesn't have explanation for a Y scale. For this one, that should represent the ratio of salaries. This type of plotting, this type of diagram shouldn't be used, etc. So you can explore it afterwards if you are interested. So what should be the features of effective visualizations? Let me just list them here, and in the following slides we can go through them in more details and examples. So first one, the visualization should have graphical integrity, meaning the information that is being communicated should be precise one. So it shouldn't be misleading for the viewer. It should be simple. So the viewer of visualization should, for him, it should be as easy as possible to absorb the information or the answer to some question that should be given. It should use the right display of measures, matrix, values. Colors should be used strategically. So also, and last but probably the most important, the good visualization, effective visualizations should tell a story with data and about data. So graphical integrity, for example, this one, it shows top tax rate if George W. Bush tax cuts expire. So we can see 35 here and 39.6 here, which is like 4 times larger in this bar plot, but actually it's not. So this diagram should look something like this. So the scale should start from 0 in order to keep the integrity of the data. We should keep it simple. So you probably saw many times these 3D pie charts, and we can do similar things in 2 dimensions. So the ratio between data and total ink used in the graphic should be as high as possible. So we should give many information in as little color as possible, only when it's necessary. We should also keep it simple, as I mentioned. So this looks like very simple visualization. We can ask about it. We can discuss about its integrity or persuasiveness or message that should be passed. But you probably remember we had this situation in July 2021 when Serbia held 3 out of 4 Grand Slams. So it's not an accurate one, but it's definitely very simple. We should also avoid having so-called chart junks. So if you look at this chart, at first glance, probably everything looks okay. But think for a few seconds which part of this chart or this diagram you could eliminate and still keep the same information, same amount of information in the diagram. So, for example, we can remove the grid. So, yeah, everything's still the same. And we can also remove the color because it doesn't carry any information. It's even prettier. It doesn't make us uncomfortable. Also, we can remove some lines, or we can additionally add some more intuitive grid. So this one, it actually looks more appealing, and the information that it provides are the same as starting one. So which visualization, which diagram should be used? Of course, it depends on what we want to show. So this simple diagram, it only includes some, let's say, basic types of visualization. So, for example, for comparison purposes, relationship purposes, composition, distribution, but still it might be useful. So when you have some data set, you can use it as a reference to see which types of diagrams are possible to be used by your data. So let's go through these types of different diagrams, different visualizations, and give some examples for each of them. So for comparisons, usually what's mostly used are, of course, the bar plots or bar chart, and yeah, they can be used in many different forms, shapes, using images, and anything that can be used to attract more attention or provide some different information. Also, it's possible to use lines instead of bars, but as you can see here, with bars, it's much more intuitive about the difference between variables that we are comparing. Also, we can use so-called stacked bar charts, and we can obtain with these ones certain amount of extra information that can be passed. So, for example, with these different colors, we can add the group that they are, the group that they are consisted of. For proportions, usually pie charts are used, and also we can use so-called stacked bar charts to provide to the viewers the ratio between different groups or areas. And for comparisons, we can use this grouped bar charts, where every group, every section in the chart should contain several or certain set of bars. Also depends on the type of information that we want to pass. For trends, you're usually represented by this time series diagrams with X and Y scale, and the function that follows certain variable or certain parameter. It's very intuitive. We can see the trends easily, whether it's rising or falling or staying on the same level with some variations. Also next to it, we can provide some additional info about the data, amplitude or average value, anything that could be useful for a viewer. For correlations between two different variables, usually scatter plots are used. This is a very simple example. On the X scale, we can see how much difficult it is to eat a certain fruit, and on the Y scale, we can put the tastiness of this fruit. So, for example, if we want to ask someone which fruit is easiest to eat and most tastiest, then it's a peach, strawberries, and grapes, blueberries. For correlations, you probably also saw this many times. People occasionally use these 3D representations, which, as you can see here, usually look very messy. So it's a good practice to avoid using 3D visualizations in 2 dimensions. There are, you will see in some of the following slides, you will see some diagrams that can show 3, 4, or 5 dimensions of the data without having these 3D diagrams. For distributions, one of the mostly used diagrams is certainly histogram. So it shows the counts of each value in the data set, and it's consisted usually of bins. So we can define how many bins we want to have in the data set, and or which is the weight of the bin. And also if we change it, we can see maybe some new information in the data set, whether certain values are more or less represented. And the example for it is actually here. So if we lower the bin weight, then we can see maybe some new aspects of the data. Also for distribution, sometimes these density plots are used. So for every value, every sample in the data set, we can put a spot with a certain amount of visibility. So in the areas where there is a large amount of data, it will be darker, and vice versa. When there is no data, then it will be very light. Similarly for 2D density plots. So if we have, for example, 2 variables in our data set, so we can for each one we can represent it with a dot, and also for every dot we can assign certain density, certain opaque, or certain amount of being visible. And probably mostly used for distributions are these box plots. So they are very convenient for comparison of distributions of some different variables across some groups. For example, here we have a total bill, maybe in some restaurant or something like that. So we can see distribution, for example, of every person that ate at this restaurant. What is the amount of the bill that the person paid, and we can see that increases from Thursday to Saturday, Sunday to weekend. So we might conclude that people are usually spending more money on average on weekends than on the working days. So it's also some kind of a story, some kind of the answer that we can conclude from the data. How actually it's represented. So inside of this box lies 50% of the data. So till the border of the box, till this black line, it's a little less than 25%. And after the box, there are some outliers with total of 0.35%. So by just positioning it on the scale, we can actually see where the most of the data resides. It's something what I mentioned before. So we can create distributions with having available, for example, 4 different variables by introducing 2 different aspects of visualizations. So for one dimension, we have X scale. For second one, we have a Y scale. and we can use the color of the markers as third dimension of the data, and we can use the size of the marker as a fourth dimension of the data. So if you look at here, it's very attractive visualization. It shows the income and the health of the population, and by the color of the marker, it shows from which region, from which continent the country resides. And yes, so also very effective, very easy to grasp, to comprehend visualization, and also visualization that can tell many different stories. Also, we can even go in 5D, believe it or not. So if you
visualization is right at the heart of my own work too. Real space. $4,000 and $40,000.
You can even add the timing aspect.
Europe round eight size of the country bubble,
follow
the
the
size of the
changes
population.
Of this.
And in 1810, it was pretty crowded down there, wasn't it? All countries were sick and poor. Life expectancy were below 40 in all countries. And only UK and the Netherlands were slightly better off, but not much. And now, why start the world? The Industrial Revolution makes countries in Europe and elsewhere move away from the rest. But the colonized countries in Asia and Africa, they are stuck down there. And eventually, the Western countries get healthier and healthier. And now we slow down to show the impact of the First World War and the Spanish flu epidemic. What a catastrophe. And now I speed up through the 1920s and the 1930s. And in spite of the Great Depression, Western countries forge on towards greater wealth and health. Japan and some others try to follow, but most countries stay down here. Now, after the tragedies of the Second World War, we stop a bit to look at the world in 1948. 1948 was a great year. The war was over, Sweden topped the medal table at the Winter Olympics, and I was born. But the differences between the countries of the world was wider than ever. United States was in the front, Japan was catching up. Brazil was way behind, Iran was getting a little richer from oil, but still had short lives. And the Asian giants, China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, they were still poor and sick down here. But look what is about to happen. Here we go again. In my lifetime, former colonies gained independence, and then finally they started to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And in the 1970s, then countries in Asia and Latin America started to catch up with the Western countries. They became the emerging economies. Some in Africa follows. Some Africans were stuck in civil war and others hit by HIV. And now we can see the world today in the most up-to-date statistics.
Hope it was interesting. Also, when you add very exciting commenting voice, it hugely helps with the explaining aspects of visualizations. So this is another simple example that could help us to see what and to get us more familiar with the questions that we might ask about data. So it's very simple data set what we have here. So the first column, it shows the interests of kids from one school into science before giving them a lecture about science and after giving them a lecture about science. So as you can see here, what expected to happen is maybe this interest to change or to increase or maybe decrease if the lecture wasn't that good. So in essence, which diagram we might use for this? It's usually an exercise, but I won't take too much of your time for it. So I will just try to give you some examples what we can use. Just slideshow again. So yeah, so we can use pie chart. On the first one, we can show the proportion of different groups, different opinions about the science before and after the lecture. And if we want to compare, for example, the blue one shows excited. Okay, so we can see it increased. Those ones that were kind of an interest, it's similar. And those ones that were okay with it, it decreased. And ones that were bored, it stayed the same. So pie chart, from it we can extract some information. You can also use stacked bar chart. Maybe here we have better comparison between groups before and after, so we can compare them more easily, especially because we added numbers here, so we can be even more precise. Also, we can use group bar chart. So here, for every group, we can see the exact increase even more accurately or in similar way. Or here we can see the difference, what I was trying to extract from the first diagram. And we can see where the increase or decrease happens. So what happened here usually is that a certain amount of children that used to be okay with the science became excited about science. So I suppose the lecture was was good. To be even more accurate, we can use this slope chart to see the exact transitions from one group before and the same group after the lecture. And usually what is mostly valued by executive of the company is the number. So we can say after the pilot program, 68% of kids expressed interest towards science, compared to 44 before going into the program. So let's try to give some other aspects of visualization, so that could help us or help us persuade it more, or help us grasp it more, and extract some information in easier way. So, for example, if we want to compare something, we can do it, of course, by simple providing the length of the bars, and we can easily say it's like 4 times. But if we want to represent it with the slope, then here it's not that easy to say that this slope, this angle is 4 times larger than the first one. Also, the area, it's not that easy to say how many times this big circle is larger than this small one. Or darker, also not so easy. So if we want to show the relation between some values, we should probably use the length, not coloring, or brightness, or also coloring. So this simple diagram, it shows what we presented on few last slides. Also, for some aspects of data, we can argue whether to use pie charts or a bar chart. So, for example, with this data set, we can say 65% of the market it's controlled by companies B and C. And if we show it on a bar chart, then it's easy to easy to read this information. But if we have this, sorry, on a pie chart, it's easy to see, but on the bar chart, it's not that easy to see which percentage of the market is owned by B and C companies. Also, something that is not effective in visualization is usage of many colors. So it's very difficult for a viewer to connect each dot, each area with a certain color. They usually say humans can absorb 7 or 8 colors in the same diagram, but I wouldn't go above 4 or 5. Also, here, too many colors, it just brings very stressful and not so good effect on people. So you should also avoid using all rainbow colors in the same diagram. Yes, what I said. So 5 to 8 colors should be sufficient, and also you can use weather coloring or luminance to represent different aspects of data, and of course avoid using rainbow color map. It's just not appealing for the viewers. Also, one of the aspects that should be taken into account is percentage. Sorry. So certain percentage of population is colorblind, and there are different types of color blindness. And you can see in this example with this first image how is seen by different disorder, different deficiency possessed by these individuals. So while designing graphics, this aspect can also be taken into consideration. So we can choose from the palette of colors the set of colors that is distinguishable also by the colorblind population. And here is a very nice tool which you can use to pick colors. So here you can select how many different classes are you looking for, and decide whether you want to be colorblind safe, whether should be photocopy safe, and you can select which color you want. And here you can just easily copy its hex values, which you can use in Python or R or any other programming language. For some reason. So to summarize, having graphical integrity is one of the main aspects of effective visualizations, following by keeping it simple, using the right display, right colors, not to be too colorful, and last but probably most important, visualization should tell a story. So thank you very much for your attention. Hope it was useful and interesting for you. Please tell me if you have any question.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Can you tell us of any good tools beside Excel for creating of these visualizations?
Well, I mostly use Python, so there are some libraries in Python, such as Seaboard. Usually, if there is a time in 45 minutes, there is no time, but this talk is followed by examples given in using Seaboard library in Python, which demonstrates how these visualizations can be created, modified. So if you want to have the largest amount of control and you over any aspect, any coloring lines types of it, then Python's matplotlib library and with the combination with the Seaborn, it's something that gives you most power.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other question?
You have a shout from Milan.
Thank you, Milan.
Cool.
So
I have a
can
question.
share. Yeah, please, Basha, tell me.
Thank you very much. I was actually using Tableau, and you introduced the color blindness for color brewer. How can it
Yes.
be integrated when I'm using Tableau?
Yeah, I think it could also be integrated easily, because in the web page that I show you, you can see the exact coordinates of the colors. So I suppose in Tableau you can also enter them and use the same color palette, which is safe for colorblind people.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your question.
And Vladimir, in your area, in the genomics, like for the type of the data that you are working with, what's the kind of visualizations you are mostly opting for?
Many different aspects. So beside these commonly used examples of diagrams that I showed you, usually there is a need to create like custom visualization for some specific types of data sets. For example, to show clustering and maybe with different groups, different distances, and sometimes it's a combination of diagrams. So on same image, on same diagram, you might have 2 or 3 different ones showing different aspects of the data. So the reader can create even larger story from it. You're muted, sorry.
So, yeah. So anyone else maybe with a question for Vladimir? I guess not. Well, Vlado, thank you so much for this.
Thank
And,
you.
And yeah, I think we will stay in touch and see what are the next opportunities for us to collaborate. Thank you all for joining the call.
Pleasure, and have a good rest of the day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Cheers. Bye. Bye.